Kia ora team, welcome to another online tutorial. Today we're going to be talking about predicting inheritance using a Punnet Square. I would like to recap a few ideas before we start because they're going to be relevant to what we're talking about. So we have alleles, different versions of the same gene or similar genes that code for the same thing. Today we're going to be using the example of earlobes, detached or attached. In previous videos we used the example of eye color, blue versus brown. Okay. For a trait, you have a genotype, the genes you have for expressing that trait, and our physical expression of that trait is our phenotype. Okay, so I've gone ahead and drawn this box so you don't have to watch me do it. I do apologize, it's rather shonky. I'm filming this during the COVID epidemic, so I left my rulers at work actually, so unfortunately I've had to freehand this one, but this is a really good example that your notes don't need to be perfect, they don't need to be beautiful, but they do need to be functional. Okay, so to start off, I'm going to write down our alleles. So we have a detached earlobe or an attached earlobe. I should make that careful. An attached or a detached earlobe. For us, our detached earlobe is our dominant, our big E. Our attached earlobe, okay, is our recessive, it's our little e. Okay, and that we are going to have three potential genotypes. We're going to have our heterozygous, which has both big E and little e. We could have a homozygous dominant, homozygous dominant with an A, and that's going to be our two dominant alleles. Or we could have a homozygous recessive genotype, which is our two recessive little e's. Okay, so today in our Punnet Square we're going to be looking at potential inheritance for offspring for two heterozygous individuals. Okay, so I'm going to draw their genotype at the top and side of my Punnet Square. Okay, now I'm going to start by going down and across for my dominant alleles, just because writing your genotype with the dominant in the front or the first letter is good convention. Okay, so what we do is we look, and I'm going to start with the top, I'm going to start with the, then go with the second. You can start with the second or the side and then go with the top, it's up to you, but it doesn't really matter as long as you write down your dominants first so you get good convention. So I'm going to start with my big E and I'm going to go down. Okay, this one's going to be going down, these ones are going to be going across. So I go any box that would go through. So I write big E, big E. Okay. I'm coming across here and I'm going to do my other dominant and I'm going to come across. I get my second big E. Well, here I get my first. Then I'm going to do my recessives. Starting at the top, my little e, little e. Okay. Coming here and then going across, little e, little e. And now I have all the potential genotypes of offspring for two individuals that are heterozygous. So, when you pass on your genetic information through sexual reproduction, okay, you are only going to be able to pass on one of your two alleles for a given trait. And it's a 50% chance that you pass either. So we have your two alleles here, and you could pass them on evenly for both pairs. That's why we have our four alleles. And there's four different options as a result. Because there's four potential options, okay, each box is going to be a 25% chance. So we have our genotypes, our potential genotypes, and we know that each box is a 25% chance of occurring. Okay, so now we look at this, and we're going to say, what are the odds, what are the chances, what is the probability that we get these genotypes? So we have a look. I'm going to start off with my heterozygous, and I can see that I've got 2 boxes, and 2 times 25% is 50%. So I can write the chance of being heterozygous, big E, or little e, okay, both, equals 50%. Okay. Now I'm going to do my homozygous dominant. I'll come have a look. I've only got 1 box, so I can see that the chances of having an offspring with a homozygous dominant genotype, 25%. And last but not least, I'm looking for my homozygous recessive. I see that I have 1 box, so again, I'm only going to have 25%. So, what have we found? Okay, we've found that we have a Punnet square with 2 individuals who are heterozygous, giving us the inheritance probability of their offspring, and we can see that there's a 50% chance that the offspring will be heterozygous, a 25% chance that offspring would be homozygous dominant, and a 25% chance that offspring would be homozygous recessive. Okay, now this would be our genotype probability. Okay, sometimes it's given as a ratio, and that's fine. I like to deal with probabilities personally. Okay, but we don't just have a genotype, remembering that these traits are going to be expressed physically. We're also going to have a phenotype. Okay, so now we're going to have a look and we're going to say, alright, what are the chances that a phenotype or a trait would be expressed? Okay, so I'm going to have a look. These 2 both carry the dominant gene, a detached earlobe. So they're both going to express a detached earlobe. With this guy here, only recessive alleles can only express our recessive trait, our attached earlobe. So we've got 75% of the offspring, or an offspring has a 75% chance of having the dominant gene. There is a 75% chance that they will have detached earlobes. So we say detached earlobe, 75% chance, okay? Whereas our attached earlobe, oh yeah, bob, so daisy, only has 25% chance. And this would be our phenotype probability. So, what does this tell us? We can see that when you've got 2 individuals who are heterozygous, sexually reproducing, we can predict the chance or the genotype that their offspring will have, or the probability of them having that genotype. Okay, using a Punnet square as we have here. From that Punnet square we can infer the genotype probability, a 50% chance of heterozygous, a 25% chance of homozygous dominant, 25% chance of homozygous recessive, sorry, as well as the phenotype probability. Knowing what we know about dominant and recessive alleles, we know that both of these have the dominant allele present, and therefore will have the dominant trait. So we've got a 75% chance of the phenotype detached earlobe, and a 25% chance of the recessive phenotype attached earlobe. Okay. Hopefully that's been helpful explaining how to run through these Punnet squares and how you can predict inheritance. Get out there, give them a shot. Plenty of resources out there for you to try practicing your Punnet squares, especially if you have access to NCEA questions or a SciPad. Yeah, good luck.